They think Islam is the best they could have. But before we proceed into looking into the many errors in the Quran, we would like to concur with Dr. Walter Williams in his book Origin of Islam, where he says there has never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Muhammad, the prophet of traditional Islam. We would also like to highlight that millions on millions across long periods of time up to today of melanin dominant human beings, Africans, were enslaved by Islam and shipped across and walked across, trekked across the Sahara and other forests into the Middle East, where males were castrated and vanished and females were used in the harem. It is very, very important that three facts need to be clear, need to be understood by every melanin dominant being, so that we can tell our children and pass this message to every generation without failure. 1. It was the Pearl Arabs who introduced African slave trade to Europeans. 2. It has been proved by Dr. Walter Williams in his book that this religion is a derivative of Christianity as well as Judaism. And the last part is that Islam is not an African culture or religion or spirituality, but it is a slave chain around our necks today, around our brains. If you get our book Free from God, Steps of a Free Spirit, in chapter 8, you realize how the Islamic God was created, crafted, and given to the whole world and promoted as the only God. And it's an error. Islamic racism is prevalent today. Similarly, they claim that there is no racism in Islam and that they are all one is a blatant lie. From the very inception of Islam and for its entire history, Muslims have made up the largest number of slave traders and engaged in the greatest slave trading campaign in history. Let that sink and let that be the fact. Other scholars within the Islamic religion, like Ali Dasht, have clearly proved that the Quran contains sentences which are incomplete and not fully intelligible without the aid of commentaries, foreign words, unfamiliar Arabic words, and words used with other than the normal meaning, adjectives and verbs inflected without observance of the concords of gender and number, illogical and ungrammatically applied pronouns which sometimes have no referent, and predicates which in rhymed passages are often remote from the subjects. These and other aberrations in the language have given scope to critics who deny the Quranic eloquence. The messages that became the Quran or that make up the Quran and all what you think was inspired is predated by more books than you can ever think of. The Holy Bible predates it and it borrows from the Holy Bible. The Sumerian tablets predates it and it borrows from the Sumerian tablets. Jewish midrash, the apocryphal texts, and the Greek legends are all found their way, and passages have found their ways into the Quran. This is proof that the Quran is full of errors, and that due to these errors it was written after other books but still made a lot of errors after that. So when we consider the errors in the Quran, we want to point out that there are scientific errors in the Quran, and the Quran contains historical errors. The Quran contains errors in astronomy. The Quran contains arithmetic errors. It contains illogical inconsistencies. The Quran contains contradictions, and the Quran contains moral errors. You can go to this Facebook page to see 1,000 mistakes in the Quran. Or when you look at the scientific errors in the Quran, you can watch this video. Scientifically totally wrong. 43 scientific mistakes in the Quran. And you go to this YouTube channel and you can also view it, and you see for yourself that this book is not worthy to be called a holy book. You can also read the book Why I Am Not a Muslim by Ibn Waraqah. It is clear that there are errors in the Quran, and when you point out these errors in the Quran, the supporters and the followers of this religion, just like Christians, Hebrews, Jews, and many others with book-based religions, they engage in what is known as apologetics. In other words, the academic gymnastics to try to defend their book and their religion. Let's look at biological errors. In the whole Quran, Allah did not even at one time mention the role of women and their egg in human reproduction. When you ask how was man created, there are many scenarios that are given that are contradictory. Creation from clay, Surah 6:2. He is the one who created you from clay. This verse suggests that humans were created from clay or mud, right? Creation from water. Now, Surah 25:54 says, and it is he who has created from water a human being. This verse says humans created from water. Creation from dust. Surah 23:12 mentions, and certainly did we create men from an extract of dust. There is also a clot of blood, and there's also sounding clay. All these you can find them from the ex-Muslims of Norway Facebook page, and sperm mixed with clay in Quran 23:12-14. You can also understand where this comes from, because the writers who wrote the Quran were influenced by Galen, and hugely influenced during the 2nd century by this Greek physician. That's clear. It has been proved. We've got videos that proves that. When it comes to scientific explanation and geography, it says that have we not smoothed out the earth like a bed, flat earth, and made the mountains as its pegs, in Quran 78:7. But we know scientifically how mountains are created. They are formed when two continental plates or earth plates collide. Since both plates have similar thickness and weight, neither one can sink under the other. So what happens is that they crumble and fold until the rocks are forced up to form a mountain. As the plates continue to collide, mountains will get taller and taller. There is nothing there. It's scientific, it's explanatory, and it's very clear. When we look at the matter of the sun, astronomy, we are told that the sun sets in a pool of murky or mud waters. That's in Quran 18:86. We read it here. Until when he is looking, the setting place of the sun reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of black muddy or hot water, and he found near it a people. We, Allah said by inspiration, or Dulka Kwain, either you punish them or treat them with kindness. Very contradictory to observable as well as astronomical science. Very clear. There is no two ways about it. The most blunt and inaccurate surah or verse is Quran 36:38, which says, and the sun runs on its course towards its stopping point. We know that the sun has no stopping point at all. That is the determination of the Almighty, the all-knowing. It's all error. There is nothing like that. This is total error and clearly not true. The sky is pictured as a canopy, Quran 13:2. But we know that from the earth, you go to the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere. It goes on to infinity. There's no canopy whatsoever, unless you are talking of electrical canopies, maybe, but that's not exactly like what they are saying here. You can also go to this website, answeringislam.org, or grammatical errors, and visit his channel. He deals a lot with the contradictions and the errors in the Quran. Historical errors. Abraham is thought to have built the Kaaba, but it is very clear that the Kaaba is a pagan temple that predates Islam, predates Abraham. It was rebuilt in the 5th century by Karib Assad. It's very clear that the Kaaba was also a temple of Yubal, the Arabic version of the Canaanite god Baal, and it housed pre-Islamic deities and gods. So Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael didn't build any Kaaba. That's known, it's provable. And it comes to Pharaoh. The Quran says Pharaoh was an eminent person or someone who was in Egypt or ruling Egypt, using the term Pharaoh. In Quran, the rulers during the time of Moses are referred to as Pharaoh. You can read Surah 28:38. However, the term Pharaoh was not used during the time of Moses. It was a title that came later for these African kings. The rulers during that time were known as Inkos, Mambo, Ishe, or in English, king or emperor or ruler. So there is a mistake there. Another astronomical error here deals with the stars that we see in the sun and the shooting stars. In Quran 67:5, we are taught that, and indeed we have adorned the nearest heaven with the lamps, and we have made such lamps as missiles to drive away Satan. It's there. You can read if you want to go read it there. Gentlemen and ladies, this is what is there. Was it inspired? Is this truly from the creator of the limitless universe? Quran contradiction, we look at number 7 here. We get from Ryan Zen. Question is, how long did it take Allah to create the heavens and the earth? Simple, straightforward question. The answer, number 1, 6 days. Indeed, you, O Lord, is Allah who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Surah 7:54. Another answer, 8 days. Say, do you indeed disbelieve in He who created the earth in 2 days? And He placed on the earth firmly set mountains over its surface, and He blessed it and determined therein its creatures' sustenance in 4 days. And He completed them as 7 heavens within 2 days. You can go to read this surah. So when you look at this, also look at Mary, the mother of Jesus. In the Quran, in Surah 19:27-28, Mary is depicted as the sister of Aaron. Oh, sister of Aaron, your father was not a man of evil, nor your mother an unchaste woman. Gentlemen, Jesus was born thousands of years after this Aaron. It is clear that Aaron indicated here as the brother of Moses. Mary lived many centuries after Aaron, and there is no evidence to support the idea that they were siblings. This is clear that the Quran's historical accuracy is totally out of sync, is totally in error. Who was the first Muslim? Was it Muhammad? Was it Abraham? Was it Yaqub? Was it Moses? All of them. But it can't be. You need to have a first one. And I, Muhammad, am commanded to be the first of those who bow to Allah in Islam. Surah 39:12. When Moses came to the place appointed by us and his Lord addressed him, here again he said, I am the first to believe. That's Moses. And as was the legacy that Abraham left to his sons, and so did Jacob. O my sons, Allah hath chosen the faith for you. Die not except in the faith of Islam. Surah 2:132. So who was the first Muslim? You can't have an answer there. Now, all what we are saying here is a message to melanin-dominated beings and many others. We have great people like Malcolm X and many other black Muslims who have powerful rhetoric, powerful speeches, and they say a lot of sensible things. But their culture and their religion cannot fully liberate themselves and their followers and their hearers because of the hundreds of contradictions in their so-called holy book and the evil actions of their Muslim fathers and ancestors who, whilst they were reading the Quran and praying 5 times a day, continues to enslave and committing genocide against their ancestors. These are facts that should sink and make a lot of us think seriously on the many errors in the Quran, and that the Quran is not for us melanin-dominant human beings, because part of the process that destroyed our civilization, especially in North Africa, Canaan, Hamit, as far as Arabia, you call Libya. The mulatto who came through the Europeans, the Greco-Roman Coptics, and the Arab Ottoman so-called Egyptians today are not indigenous in those lands. It is clear that we must learn that there is no redemption outside of our culture, that it is only through our culture that we get the spirit that energizes our souls for salvation. Nowhere else. Others will lead you into captivity and spiritual slavery. Yes. To learn more, continue to subscribe, continue to listen to our videos, and let us walk this journey together. You can also send us an email on join@marfado.com. Yes, Islam is not an African spirituality, culture, or religion. Neither the Quran an African religious book. No, it's full of contradictions. Amen.